Welcome to Papa Joe's Trains and Toys. Thank you for watching. I'm a beginner modeler and an HO scale train enthusiast. Today I am unboxing and assembling a Walthers 50-foot auto boxcar with SantaFe markings. I got this secondhand on Facebook Marketplace. The date on the box is from 1995. As I unbox this and I sort out the sprues, I'll check for any damage that could possibly have happened over the years. This item has been in storage for a long time in multiple places. As you can see here, the little plastic baggie contains your trucks, your wheel sets, and your couplers. This particular boxcar, as I'll show here in a moment, actually has a piece that has been broken off in the box that I'll have to glue back on later. Once you've removed everything from the box and read the instruction, please look over everything to make sure there's no damage or excess plastic that needs to be cut off and sanded down. Here's the piece I was talking about. It's the foot rail to be able to climb up onto the car, and I'll have to use some super glue later on to attach that. The two metal weights are typically either wrapped in something or underneath a piece of paper like this one was. That'll be my first step in this process, once I cut out the floor from the sprues. Here you'll see me cutting open the baggie with all the extra little parts. Be careful, there are several tiny pieces including little screws, so I tend to use the box to keep everything organized. It has the older style couplers with it, which I will not use. I'll be using KD 148 magnetic whisker couplers, since that's what I'll be using for all of my rolling stock and the engines as I move along with my train room build, that hopefully you'll be able to watch later on. At this point, I'll be using some super glue, also commonly referred to as CA glue, to attach the two weights that come with the boxcar. It works better than the Tamiya thin cement that I typically use for the rest of the plastic model due to the metal to plastic. Here I carefully cut off the sprue, and you'll see me scrape with my X-Acto knife and some sandpaper to make sure all the edges are nice and smooth and clean for a better fit as I move along through building this model. This typically doesn't take too long, but it is an easy step to overlook, and it can hang you up later on as you're trying to fit pieces together. I am using super glue that has a brush, which makes it easier for me, and I tend to weigh things down with those, as you can tell, 1, 2, 3 blocks. You can pick them up on Amazon, hardware stores, model stores. They come in very handy while doing certain builds. I do also recommend, if you happen to be an older gentleman, as I am, that you get a pair of magnifying glasses with a light. It does make things a lot easier, and you can see the finer detail much better. Once I get those glued in place, I'll set them off to the side so that the super glue can cure for a few moments, and I'll work on the rest of the boxcar. Here I'll be assembling the base or floor of the car. There are several small details to add depending on the boxcar that you happen to be working with. This one has 3 different pieces that are very small for the brake assembly that goes underneath the boxcar on the floorboard, along with the 2 fish plates that you can see that I've already cut out and sanded down. Also ensure that, according to the directions and the type of box cards you're working on, that your pieces and little parts are facing the correct direction. When you go to attach the fish plates, ensure that it's pointing in the correct direction and that the riveted sides are facing out. Press in firmly, but not too hard, so that they are snugly fit. Before gluing them in, I've had to actually take them out and change sides because I forgot to check for the riveted sides. Which is what I was doing here. There's also a specific notch on this particular boxcar so that it has to go in a certain direction. Once I get the fish plates installed, I'll be assembling the wheels to the trucks or bogies. What you call them is your preference. When you go to assemble the couplers and the boxes that they go in, make sure that the ends are facing the correct direction, or you'll have a hard time pressing them into place. I do prefer the coupler boxes that have a screw versus the press to fit. Later on, I do have to glue the one side down because it just does not fit anymore due to the older plastic. Be careful not to bend the wheel sets too much. If you grab them and squeeze slightly to get the first wheel set in, gently stretch them apart for the other wheel set, you shouldn't have any issues. Make sure they do spin freely once in place. I tend to set the floor and trucks aside to be finished later. Next, we're going to move along to the body and assemble the doors. Be sure to sand where they're connected to the sprue for a good fit. Also ensure before gluing that you inspect the doors, make sure that the latches are in the correct position. I have in the past glued them in backwards. Yeah, that's not coming off again, so they are permanently in backwards. A couple of drops of thin cement will keep them in place for a very long time. You also may have an option for one end of the car to either have a closed end with no door or a double door end. I do tend to prefer the double doors, so that's what I'm adding today. You can see the 4 holes in the end of the boxcar, and I do find it slightly comical sometimes that the 4 holes in the boxcar themselves are square, and the pins on the ends of the doors are round, so you're literally putting a round peg into a square hole. We then move on to the walkway for the top of the car. With this model, there are 4 pins also that snap into place, and it can be a very tight fit. Also watch out for the gap at the ends. You may have to weight them down, as you'll see me do here in a short moment. I then set this aside and move back to the floor to install the couplers and trucks. Back to the 1, 2, 3 blocks. They do come in very handy when you're building certain things, not only for weight, but to keep buildings and such square. I recommend getting at least 1 pair. I do have 2. I just found it easier to use having multiple sets. I also recommend that you get a magnetic screwdriver set. It'll make your life a little bit easier when dealing with small screws as you're working along, whether it's box cars, engines. There are very small screws that have to be dealt with. And I found it's a lot easier to keep them in place as I go to screw things together. As you tighten down the trucks, make sure not to over tighten the screws. The truck should have some movement, move freely from side to side, and also have a little bit of rocking motion to them. The last part that I need to assemble here is the brake wheel that goes on the end of the boxcar. One little drop of glue and it should be good. To finishing everything off, I'll mate the bottom and the body together, making sure everything is nice and flush before gluing. It can be a tight fit. You may have to press a little bit harder than you're comfortable with, and sometimes, you could end up breaking things, but just be careful. Also, make sure that you have oriented the floor with the correct direction as the rest of the boxcar. Your brake sets and smaller parts should be facing the end away from the brake wheel. Here, once everything is done, I'll be using a coupler height gauge to ensure that no unwanted coupling of cars or derailments. You can get the gauge on Amazon or most train and hobby stores. You can see here that, well, it's a little hard to see, but you can tell that it's a little out of whack. So I will have to adjust the height of the coupler pins that are hanging down. It's a pretty simple process. I use 2 sets of needle nose pliers to slightly bend the metal pin upwards. Be careful not to apply too much pressure. As you could damage the pin or the boxcar itself. Pardon me. And here we have the gauge at the right height. I do use a toothpick to uncouple the car from the gauge. I do need to screw that gauge down to that track piece. And here we see the finished product. In reality, it took me about an hour to assemble. Some take longer depending on the car you're working with. Some down the line, I will weather and sand it and add other details to make it a little bit more realistic. The next 2 segments here are actually my bloopers, where I did make some mistakes. I want to show that even in modeling, you can make mistakes and recover from them easily. Just be careful, have patience, and move steadily along. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.